Have you ever found yourself wondering why some people just seem naturally drawn to like these really serene, highly organized spaces,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Like they prefer these quiet, almost invisible acts of kindness, while others, and hey, maybe this is even you, are driven by entirely different, maybe much louder motivations.
It is a really striking contrast to observe. I mean, you can look at two people side by side in the exact same environment, and their internal engines are just running on completely different fuel.
Yeah. And today, for this deep dive, we are getting the literal ancient blueprint for one of those specific internal engines. We are exploring chapter 4 of a truly fascinating book by Rev Thalangalle Ratana Thero.
It's such a great chapter.
It really is. And we're going to strictly focus on the fourth trait of human personality, according to this framework, which is known as Saddhā-Carita.
Which translates from Patel to the faithful or devotional temperament. And just for context, for those of you keeping track of this framework at home, there are multiple personality types outlined here. We will actually be continuing our exploration with the fifth trait in our next deep dive. But today is entirely dedicated to understanding the devoted mind.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when we hear the words faith or devotion in our modern context, they carry a ton of heavy baggage.
Oh, totally. A lot of baggage.
We immediately tend to picture someone just, blindly following rules or accepting dogmatic concepts without ever really questioning them. But this text is looking at faith through a completely different lens, isn't it?
It is, and that is a crucial distinction we have to make right at the start. The Pali word used by the author here is saddha, and the text is incredibly clear. Saddha absolutely does not mean blind faith.
Right.
It does not mean mere belief in the absence of evidence.
So it's not a demand to just switch your critical thinking off and trust the process.
Precisely the opposite. Saddha refers to a well-founded confidence. Think of it as a confidence that has been actively earned, through deep understanding.
Through testing it out.
Exactly. Through rigorous personal experience and through an earned trust in what the tradition calls the triple gem.
And that refers to the Buddha, the Dhamma, which are the teachings themselves, right?
Yeah, and the Saṅgha, the community of practitioners.
It sounds more like the confidence a scientist has in a law of physics after they've personally run the experiment 100 times.
Yeah.
You aren't just hoping it works. You have confidence born of actually testing the waters yourself.
That is an excellent way to frame it. And the author draws heavily on a foundational text called the Visuddhimagga for this. For you listening, think of the Visuddhimagga as a massive, incredibly detailed 5th century master manual for meditation and psychology.
It's dense.
Very. And according to this manual, a person with this Saddhā-Carita temperament naturally inclines toward wholesome qualities. They inherently want to cultivate spiritual development.
So they're generally just respectful, honest, kind-hearted people.
Right. They actively enjoy associating with virtuous people and practicing generosity.
Wait, I want to pause here because there is a twist in the source material that I absolutely did not see coming.
Oh, the Raga-Carita comparison.
Yes. The Visuddhimagga points out that on the outside, this Saddhā-Carita, this incredibly faithful temperament, looks almost exactly identical to a completely different, almost opposing personality type.
The Raga-Carita.
Exactly. And Raga-Carita is the temperament fundamentally driven by the pursuit of sensual pleasure.
What's fascinating here is that to the untrained eye, you literally could not tell them apart in a lineup.
Oh, wow.
Both of these personalities present to the outside world as gentle, exceptionally polite, meticulously clean, and highly refined in their tastes.
I was thinking about this, and it's like two people who both maintain these immaculate, quiet, perfectly organized homes. Everything is in its place. The lighting is soft. It's very peaceful.
Right.
One person, the Raga-Carita, is curating this space purely for aesthetic comfort. They want the sensory pleasure of a beautiful room. Maybe they want it to look perfect, or they just crave that cozy, luxurious feeling of being surrounded by nice things.
While the other person, the Saddhā-Carita, maintains that exact same tidy, quiet room for an entirely different reason.
Yeah.
They do it because a clean, orderly environment removes distractions. It fosters a clear, unagitated mind. The faithful temperament delights in wholesome qualities, not in the sensual enjoyment of the room itself.
So you're saying the aesthetic of the room is exactly the same, but the psychological payoff for the person sitting in it is entirely different.
Exactly. One is the aesthetic, the other is the ascetic. Raga seeks beauty and comfort. Saddha seeks virtue, wisdom, and spiritual growth.
It completely highlights how tricky it is to judge someone's inner world by their outer presentation.
Definitely. The underlying motivation is the defining factor, not just the observable behavior itself.
But, well, the text does get surprisingly specific about how this inner motivation actually manifests in mundane, everyday physical actions.
It does.
The Visuddhimagga suggests that if you watch someone closely enough, their physical body eventually gives away the true state of their mind.
Yes, it describes the external behavior of the faith-dominated temperament in granular detail. For instance, consider something as simple as how they walk.
Okay.
The text observes that a person of Saddhā-Carita usually walks calmly, gracefully, and mindfully.
So, no rushing to the train, no stomping around the house when they're stressed out.
Right. Their movements are relaxed and balanced. It physically reflects an inner sense of serenity rather than an underlying mental restlessness. And this extends to all their daily activities.
Like chores and things.
Yeah, they perform their duties carefully. They enjoy keeping their surroundings harmonious, as you mentioned with the house analogy.
It even talks about how they sleep, which I found fascinating. It says they prepare their sleeping place neatly, they sleep in an orderly manner, and when they wake up, they start the day calmly.
Notice a pattern.
Yeah. There is no angry hitting of the snooze button, no waking up agitated or immediately irritated by the alarm. Their bodily movements throughout the entire day, whether they are just cleaning a dish or arranging objects on a desk, are measured and respectful. They completely avoid unnecessary haste.
And then we have to look at the food preferences.
I have to stop you there, because the text gets highly specific on this point, and I want to push back on it a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
It says people with this temperament often prefer foods that are mild, sweet, delicately flavored, and pleasantly fragrant. And they eat mindfully and with gratitude.
Yes, it does say that.
But come on, that feels arbitrary.
Yeah.
Almost like a personality quirk being elevated to a spiritual diagnosis. Like, can we really judge the depth of someone's spiritual state by the fact that they prefer sweet, mild food over, say, a really intense, spicy curry?
It's a very fair challenge. I mean, on the surface, it does sound like a strange dietary judgment, but we have to look at the underlying logic of the Visuddhimagga here.
Okay, what is the logic?
It is not about issuing a moral judgment on people who like spicy food or who move quickly. It is entirely about the concept of harmony between the mind and the nervous system.
How does that work in this framework?
Well, the text suggests that a mind that lacks inner agitation naturally produces a body that moves gracefully. If your mind is already serene, confident, and contented, your body isn't constantly searching for a jolt to wake it up or distract it.
Oh, I see.
You don't crave extreme, aggressive sensory inputs to feel stimulated or satisfied.
So the need for an intensely spicy flavor or moving in these rushed, erratic bursts is almost like a symptom of a restless mind, like it's seeking some kind of loud external stimulation to drown out internal noise.
In this framework, yes. A mind anchored in saddha, in quiet devotion and well-founded confidence, finds profound satisfaction in the subtle. Mild, sweet, delicately flavored foods physically align with a gentle internal emotional state.
Because they don't need the extreme flavors to feel something.
Exactly. They eat moderately with gratitude, rather than eating out of a desperate attachment to the sensory explosion of the food itself.
Okay, I see the mechanism there. It's not about the food itself being holy or unholy. It's about measuring the level of sensory intensity the mind requires to feel engaged.
It is a holistic view of the human organism where your physical tendencies, right down to your palate and your gait, are direct downstream effects of your mental habits.
That makes a lot of sense. So if the body is moving this slowly and deliberately, what is actually happening in the brain to allow that? Let's look at the inner landscape and the emotional baseline of this temperament.
The dominant mental and emotional qualities of Saddhā-Carita are remarkably bright. We are looking at a baseline of honesty, humility, cheerfulness, and gratitude.
They just sound like great people to be around.
They are respectful and deeply kind.
And there is one trait mentioned in the sources that I found particularly profound. It says that rather than criticizing others, they naturally appreciate virtue and rejoice in the wholesome qualities of other people.
That is a critical psychological marker. I mean, in many other temperaments, the ego bolsters itself by tearing others down.
Right, by gossiping or judging.
Exactly, by constantly finding faults, by being highly critical of everyone in the room. The faithful temperament does the exact opposite. Their ego is softened enough that another person's good deeds don't feel like a threat. They bring them genuine joy.
They actually like it when other people do well.
Yeah.
They enjoy visiting monasteries, listening to discourses, and offering generosity, which is called dana. And they prioritize associating with wise and virtuous friends, what the text calls kalyamitta.
Because they possess a genuine willingness to learn and an openness to spiritual advice, they actively want to be around people who elevate their understanding rather than people who just validate their existing biases.
Now, as I was reading this, I found myself doing what I assume a lot of you listening are doing right now.
Mentally checking off boxes.
Yes. Mentally checking off boxes. Asking yourself, wait, do I do that? Am I a Saddhā-Carita? And Rev Thalangalle Ratana Thero actually provides a list of 20 specific reflection questions in the book to help guide this exact kind of self-reflection.
They are excellent questions for taking a really honest inventory of your own mental habits.
Let's look at a few of them. And I want you to really ponder these as you listen. Don't just answer automatically. Think about the last time someone truly wronged you or annoyed you.
That's a good test.
Did your mind immediately look for a way to let it go, or did you hold on to it and replay it? The author asks, do you forgive others easily?
Another deeply revealing one is, do you willingly offer help without expecting anything in return?
Which is hard.
It is. Not expecting praise, not expecting a favor later, not even expecting a simple thank you.
He also asks, do you prefer peaceful environments over noisy entertainment? When you recognize your own faults, do you sincerely try to correct them, or do you instantly get defensive?
And another great one, do you enjoy participating in religious or spiritual ceremonies with actual understanding, rather than just out of mere cultural tradition?
Right.
That goes back to the definition of saddha as well-founded confidence, not just blind habitual repetition of what your parents did.
And perhaps the ultimate question on the list, is spiritual development actually more important to you than worldly success?
That's the big one. And if you find yourself answering yes to many of these questions, the text says there may be a strong predominance of Saddhā-Carita in your personality.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Caveat.
Yes, there is a massive caveat in the text right after this list. Even if you just answered yes to every single one of those 20 questions, you cannot officially self-diagnose.
No, you cannot.
The text insists that only an experienced meditation teacher can accurately determine a person's dominant temperament through careful observation.
This raises an important question about our ability to objectively view ourselves. Why do you think the text insists so heavily on an external teacher making the final call?
Oh, wait. I just realized how this connects back to what we talked about earlier. Is this why the text spends so much time detailing the physical stuff, like how they walk and how they eat?
You're on the right track.
Because, like, you might answer yes to the quiz because your ego desperately wants to be the faithful, serene type.
Right.
But the teacher will watch you for a week and notice that you aggressively hit the snooze button, you rush through your breakfast, and you snap at people when you're stressed. Your body totally betrays your survey answers.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you've hit the nail on the head. We are terrible at assessing our own blind spots.
Yeah.
We answer aspirationally, not factually.
We answer who we want to be.
Exactly. This caveat highlights the text's overarching value of humility. The spiritual path outlined here is not a solo ego-driven project where you award yourself medals. It necessitates relying on wise external guidance.
Yeah.
An experienced teacher acts as a clear mirror. They observe your actual unconscious physical behavior, not just your idealized conscious version of yourself.
It's the ultimate ego check. You can't just slap a Faithful Temperament bumper sticker on your car and call it a day.
Precisely. And this rigorous identification process by a teacher is crucial because once an experienced teacher identifies you as genuinely having a Saddhā-Carita temperament, that diagnosis determines the exact prescription for your spiritual growth.
Right, because this whole ancient framework isn't just about personality typing for the fun of it, like a magazine quiz. It's a highly sophisticated diagnostic tool to figure out which specific meditation practices will actually work for your unique brain. So, what is the prescription for the faithful mind?
According to the Visuddhimagga, a person of this temperament responds best to meditation subjects that strengthen their natural baseline inclinations. Things like confidence, inspiration, mindfulness, and serenity.
The text mentions anapanasati, which is mindfulness of breathing. We know this is a widely recommended foundational practice in the Theravada tradition for calming the mind and developing concentration.
Yes, focusing on the breath allows the mind to gradually settle into calmness and clarity. But for the Saddhā-Carita specifically, the text heavily prescribes a different set of practices called the recollections, or anusati.
These are focused, structured reflections on specific subjects. Let's walk through them because we need to understand how they actually work. First, there's Buddhanussati, the recollection of the Buddha.
This involves reflecting repeatedly and deeply on the qualities of the Buddha. The source provides the traditional Pali chant that recounts the Buddha as fully awakened, perfectly endowed with vision and conduct, a knower of the world.
Okay.
Now, the mechanism here is fascinating. By actively contemplating these qualities of absolute perfection with understanding, it inspires immense gratitude and devotion in the faithful mind.
Let me make sure I understand the mechanics of that. By actively focusing your brain on an external ideal of perfection, you are essentially giving your mind an anchor that leaves absolutely no room for your usual daily anxieties or petty grievances to take root.
That is exactly how it functions. It starves the mind of unwholesome thoughts by flooding it with an inspiring, wholesome ideal. Wow. Then there is Dhammanussati, the recollection of the Dhamma, the teachings. This is reflecting on how the teaching is well explained, timeless, and practically invites you to come and investigate it for yourself.
Right. And following that is Saṅgha, recollecting the noble disciples who practiced the path correctly and realized liberation.
Correct.
That third one seems vital because it proves the system actually works. Recalling the Saṅgha inspires confidence that liberation isn't just an abstract theory written in an old book. It is attainable through practice by real, flawed human beings who put in the work.
It grounds the practice in reality, yes.
But the last two recollections really stood out to me as intensely practical for everyday life, even right now. The fourth is Silanussati, which is the recollection of virtue.
Yes.
This is where you reflect on your own moral conduct. You literally sit and consider, today I have tried to live honestly, kindly, and harmlessly.
It is profound because instead of the mind ruminating on anxieties, regrets, or what you failed to do today, you deliberately focus your attention on your own harmlessness. The text notes that this specific reflection develops deep joy, or piti, and a very stable self-confidence.
And finally, the fifth one, Kaganussati, the recollection of generosity. This is reflecting on your own acts of giving and kindness. I have a way to think about this that I think makes it really accessible for anyone listening.
Well, let's hear it.
It's like intentionally playing a mental highlight reel of times you practice generosity without any selfish expectations.
A highlight reel of selflessness. I like that. But what is the psychological mechanism there?
The mechanism is that your brain cannot easily hold on to selfish, tight, fearful anxieties while you are simultaneously reliving the physical and emotional sensation of selfless giving.
Right, they're incompatible states.
Exactly. You aren't playing this highlight reel to feed your ego or pat yourself on the back. You are using a past memory generosity to hack your present nervous system. By remembering what it felt like to give freely, you intentionally soften your current attachments and generate genuine, wholesome happiness in the present moment.
That is a brilliant way to articulate it. The text explicitly states that this reflection softens attachment and increases happiness. It takes the Saddhā-Carita's natural built-in inclination toward goodness and turns it into a high-powered vehicle for deep meditative concentration.
And Thalangalle Ratana Thero offers a beautiful, very simple daily practice in the book to tie all this together. You can actually do this at home.
That's very accessible.
Now, you sit quietly, maybe do a few minutes of breathing mindfulness just to settle the body. Then you intentionally reflect on the triple gem. You say to yourself, the Buddha discovered the path to the end of suffering. The Dhamma is the path that leads to liberation. The Noble Swa has successfully practiced this path.
And you conclude that reflection with a personal aspiration. You say, may I cultivate the same path with confidence, wisdom, and diligence. May my faith become firm, my mind peaceful, and my wisdom ever increase.
You just remain with that reflection for a few minutes before returning your focus to your breath. It sounds incredibly grounding. You are literally orienting your compass for the day.
It is deeply grounding. Through these specific targeted practices, the Visuddhimagga explains that devotion actually becomes the firm foundation for concentration.
So it's not just a nice feeling.
No. The raw, sometimes unformed emotion of faith is refined and sharpened into a precise tool for insight.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and look at the whole picture of the Saddhā-Carita, the Faithful Temperament.
It shows us that wholesome confidence, finding genuine joy in good deeds, and maintaining a serene environment isn't just about being a nice person or having a pleasant, agreeable personality.
Right, it's bigger than that.
Within this ancient framework, it is a profound, highly structured foundation. When properly guided by a wise teacher and paired with the exact right meditation practices, This gentle devotion matures into an unwavering, unshakable wisdom.
It's an internal engine that can drive you all the way to ultimate liberation. But, as we mentioned at the start of this deep dive, this is strictly the fourth trait in this complex system. The human mind has many layers, and the journey continues next time, when we will dive into the fifth trait.
There are indeed many more facets of the mind to explore, and they look very different from this one.
These certainly do. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Something based on a brief but honestly explosive point made early in this chapter.
Ah, yes.
The author notes that, like all temperaments we discuss, Saddhā-Carita is not permanent.
That is correct. It merely indicates the mental tendency that predominates at a particular, specific stage of one's spiritual development. It is a raft to get you across the river.
So if this beautiful, serene, faithful temperament, this amazing ability to find joy in virtue and devotion, is only temporary, what happens when you finally outgrow it? When that well-founded confidence has done its job perfectly and you no longer need faith because you've finally seen the absolute truth for yourself, who do you become next?